Hey gang, this is your buddy Platt, and today we're starting a new series. In the past I've done a beer series where we talked all about all the different beer styles. For the last year or so we've done a wine series where I've gone over the major grape varietals, the major wine regions, wine variances like sake and mead, stuff like that. So I thought the next logical progression would be to get to the spirits world. We're talking about vodka, rum, gin, scotch, tequila, etc., etc. Today I thought we would start off with something you may or may not know about, and that's called Aquavitae or Eau de Vie. They both are the same thing. Aquavitae is Italian, Eau de Vie is French, and it means water of life. When the first distillation of alcoholic spirits, that's what we're talking about here when I say spirits, is distilled alcohol. When people first discovered it, probably first drank it for the first time hundreds or even thousands of years ago, it probably was a pretty mind-blowing thing. And one of the things about distilled spirits, when it comes off the still, it's crystal clear. It looks just like water. So these folks are thinking, oh, this looks like water, I'll give her a try. And holy cow, you know. And again, it's kind of universal. Like I said, Aqua Vitae Italian, Eau de Vie French, in Gaelic, Ushkabaha. Scandinavians use the term Aquavitae. Polish, Aquavitae. In Spain, they would use the term Aquadente, which is actually fire water. Again, we're using the term water. Except there, it's like, holy, this is potent or fire water. Other cultures kind of refer it to fire water, but we're still kind of talking about water in a variation, what have you. They all mean, again, the same thing. It's a distilled spirit, comes off the still. It's the first run. It's not multiple distilled. It's not aged. It doesn't have color, and it's not usually cut. Nowadays, products called Eau de Vie and Aquavitae that's in the grocery or in your liquor store have some water where it's cut down proof a little bit, but not a lot. Generally, it's just what comes off the still. If you've never drank anything that's just come off the still, like you've never gone to a distillery or whatever, it's a totally different animal than the processed, aged, flavored spirits that you get at your liquor store. This is the next step above fermentation. Beer and wine have always been, beer, wine, mead, stuff like that. Those are fermented beverages. Most likely the original beers and wines and stuff were kind of accidents, kind of accidentally happened. Wild yeast in the year got into some kind of liquid and with sugar, and next the magic happened. Distilled spirits are a process, and it happened on purpose. So we had to kind of wait for man to evolve in a roundabout way to get to distilled spirits. How distilled spirits happen, I don't want to make this video about distillation. Maybe sometime in the future, maybe the video that caps this series will be about distillation, but just brief overview. We have, let's say, a wine, and we want to get that alcohol. We want to separate it. We would distill it, and how that would happen was we would heat it. Most of what wine is water, but alcohol, we want to separate that alcohol. Well, alcohol is the lower boiling point, so we start to heat this up. Water boils at 212, but alcohol roughly around 174. So when that solution hits 174, the alcohol starts to separate, turns to gas, and it will go into what's called a condenser, and eventually it will cool in that condenser and become liquid again, and it'll come off into that still as a clear, high-proof liquid, that's basically ethanol. That's the type of alcohol we would drink. As far as the history about distillation goes, most people trace it back to roughly around 3000 BC. They found some evidence in western Pakistan, of all places, that there was distillation, but they were creating perfumes, also things like essential oils, stuff like that was distilled originally. Roughly about 3,000 years later, the alchemists in Egypt started distilling all kinds of things. They might make a soup, try to distill it. They might take blood, try to distill it. They were trying to get the essence of everything. Distillation concentrates. Again, think of a 5-gallon batch of wine, we've got roughly, 8-10% alcohol. Well, when you distill all that out, now we're concentrating. Now we're at 50% alcohol, 60% alcohol. We're concentrating. Probably at some point through this time, somebody probably threw some wine or an early version of beer or something in a still. Not a lot of evidence, though, about that, but I'm sure it kind of happened. As far as alcohol distillation, we're looking at roughly the 9th century in Iraq, again, of all places. In modern-day Middle East, there's obviously not a lot of alcohol or alcohol production, but back hundreds of years ago, the Middle East actually was very advanced as far as scientifically, and including the distillation arts or the science of distillation. Eventually, distillation got to Europe and specifically Italy in the 12th century. After that, we start getting to the Renaissance period. Science starts to take hold. Technology, we're building, growing. The base still for hundreds and even thousands of years before was generally a pot still, which you'd have some kind of cooking pot. It could have been clay or copper or something. Then you would have a hood with like an arm that would come off to kind of concentrate those fumes, and then you would cool it off with a condenser coil or something like that. Well, now we get into the Renaissance and 1700s, 1800s, stuff like that. Now we're coming up with reflux stills, coffee stills, eventually column stills, which are like industrial stills that make like ethanol that goes into your gas tank. And these newer stills, will refine more and more. You get a higher proof off the still, a cleaner product per se. Excuse me. Most likely, the first thing that got distilled was some form of wine. Wine was pretty much in nearly every culture. They would have wine around, so it was probably the next logical process or first thing that was thrown into stills. After a while, though, each culture started developing their local beverage of choice. They started distilling. Then they started playing around with it. First, if I was in France and had some extra wine or some grapes I wanted to press, let's throw in a still. Now we got brandy. If I was in Ireland or Scotland and made some kind of barley-based beer or something like that and wanted to distill it, well, that was ishkaba, but then it became whiskey. If I was in a tropical climate, had some kind of fermented beverage from sugarcane, hey, let's throw it in one of these new fancy stills, and that becomes rum. After a while, hey, let's store this stuff in one of these wooden barrels. Well, then we noticed we left it in a wooden barrel after a while. It changed color, but it added some flavor. Eventually, hey, let's throw a little sugar in it, maybe some cinnamon sticks or some kind of spice or a fruit. Now we're getting into schnapps world or whatever. Aquavitae, eau de vie, or whatever, they were the start. This was the kind of primitive that got built out into all those spirits that you see at your local liquor store. The spirit we're going to try today is the Bellini Grappa di Chianti. It's an Aqua Vitae. It's 84 proof. Quick on the proof. Proof is double the alcohol percentage. So if it's 84 proof, it's 42% alcohol by volume. Just to get that out of the way. Most alcohol you'll see on the shelf is 80 proof, so this is just slightly above average. It is produced from Chianti pomace. Chianti is a style of wine or grape. This is from the spent grape. They made a wine, they pressed the grapes, they got as much juice out as they can. They would normally throw it away. Back years ago, the Italian winemakers would let the peasants that worked for them keep this pomace. And they would repress it to try to get any little extra juice out to make their own wine. Well, they also were pressing the seeds and the stem and made for a very tannic wine, wasn't great. But man, if you throw it through that still, and now you got something. And that's what they did when they created Grappa. Now one of the reasons I picked this specific Aqua Vitae or style of Aqua Vitae is because it's multiple different things. It's a Aqua Vitae, but like I said, it's also a Grappa. Well, Grappa, because it's coming from a fruit, it's produced from a fermented product from fruit, like a type of wine, well, that's a brandy. So we've got a brandy, but it's a Grappa, but it's an Aqua Vitae. This is something you're going to see in future videos. A good example is cognac and brandy. It's cognac, but it's also a brandy. So and that's what part of this is what this series for, is to clear up some of these terms. If you hear Aqua Vitae, you'll know it's this, but it's also that, what have you. So with that being said, let's give it a try. Again, if you've ever been around a still, how it works, you'll notice that smell. It's a very unique, I don't want to say yeasty, but kind of raw, primitive smell, almost hot per se. Woo! I get the term Aquavitae, firewater. There's a little burn to this. Again, we're not drinking a beer. This is not a subtle sipper. Because it's not aged, because it's not flavored, there aren't a lot of complexities. Grappa, because it's come from a tannic wine, some of that transfers through. A lot of people, a term that you'll hear is almost like a gasoline or hot or whatever. Again, if you've ever been around commercial ethanol, again, you'll notice this, even though it's not as high a proof. Yeah, this will wake you up in the morning. This will get you started. Well, folks, I hope you liked the video, and I hope you like the concept of the series. We're going to cover a lot of things, and I hope you like it. And if you do, please subscribe down below. Also, please like the video, because it lets YouTube know we're putting out good content. Any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comment section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. Till next time, bottoms up.